Okay.
Everything is sexualized. It's too much. And then the last thing I would say is probably social media, the internet. People have so much information available at their fingertips that they have gotten away from wanting to learn knowledge to just seeking information. And so nothing is being absorbed or applied.
Mm,
And so, yeah.
And social justice, which,
That's a whole other beast, man. Whole other beast.
Hello, all. Hello, wide world, and welcome back to the Expression of Love podcast. It is your host, Soul Expression Indeed, and I am today speaking with Shaunie Smith. Shaunie is a good friend of mine, and a good friend of my wife's as well. She's a bunch of really cool things, and let me go ahead and read her bio before saying what I think personally. So today I'm talking with Shaunie. Shaunie is a spiritual counselor, astrologer, and cosmetic chemist. She is a certified Reiki master and meditation teacher. She used to teach astrology, numerology, divination, and several meditation and mindfulness techniques to help you reach your goals and transform your life in the areas of love, career, life path, and spiritual journey. She is a vessel between realms, here to help you face your demons and bring truth to the forefront. Each product that she curates is charged under the light of the moon. All ingredients are organic, holistic, and have a blend of medicinal as well as magical properties. All collections are handcrafted in small batches and infused with love, magic, and healing. She looks forward to becoming a part of your journey. Me and Shaunie talk about various things. We don't go too far into astrology and magic and things like that. As you all know, I'm becoming less and less interested in the esoteric realm. I was very, very interested in it for a while, not so much practicing it myself, but just learning about it through other people. But now more so into just God and praising God and not creating idols. Not to say that what she's doing is, some sort of evil. I'm just speaking on, those of you who have been rocking with me for a while, you've probably seen more of a transition in that direction towards just God, the one almighty creator of all things that gave us specific directions to lead, quote unquote, good lives here on earth. Now, with that being said, Shaunie's a great friend of mine. I consider her very grounded in reality and not so out there that she's out of touch with anything. As you'll see throughout this conversation, we even talk about things like cancel culture and some of the stuff that's going on now. And we very much align in our beliefs. We talk about good and evil. We talk about her personal spiritual journey, and we talk about the spiritual journey, or what I call like the path, right? Throughout this conversation. So if you have not already had the chance, please like and subscribe, comment throughout the conversation, and I hope you enjoy. Check it out.
Expressions of love, love, love.
2, 1. What up, wide world, and welcome back to the Expression of Love podcast. It is your host, Soul Expression Indeed, and I am very happy today because I am going to be speaking with Shaunie. And Shaunie is one of the coolest, one of the most, grounded, if you will, people that I know, grounded in not only her beliefs and values and morals and ethics, but also grounded in reality, people that I know. So just help me welcome Shaunie to the Expression of Love podcast. Shaunie, what's happening? What's going on?
Hi. Just working, trying to be a beacon of light out here in these streets.
Well, I think you're doing a pretty great job. For the peeps, can you explain a little bit about what it is you do and why?
Sure. So I'm a spiritual counselor and energy healer. I am a licensed massage therapist as well. Um, I do this work because I feel that not enough focus is put on healing. So much focus is just put on soothing. And I feel that the best way to experience life and evolve in life is through healing. And in order to heal, you have to address the bare bottom roots of things. And in my opinion, that starts with self, and it starts with the concept of as above, so below, And by that, I mean what's going on in the sky is going on with you. So you need to figure out how to make sense of it so you can work with it and not against it.
Mm, that's deep. That's deep. Especially the part about people are more so attracted to or engaging in soothing rather than healing. And how I took that, before I ask you to expound on it a little bit, is it's easier to look into darkness than it is into light. You try to look into light, you just gotta squint and you gotta kind of turn your head, or you gotta look through that. But the light is representative of the truth of yourself, the truth of our community, the truth of our nation and country, if you will, or the truth of the matter, right? Whatever the matter is. And it's hard. It's hard often. It's way harder to look into light than it is into darkness. Darkness could be ignorance, darkness could be avoidance, right? It's this big space that doesn't address the light. And that's how I took what you just said about people are more interested in soothing or getting soothed than healing or being healed, or healing themselves. But I want you to expand on that a little bit from your perspective, because you work with a lot of people, yeah, or up to date,
Yeah.
you definitely have. So what do you mean by that?
So it's exactly what you said, to be honest, and I think you said a whole lot. But what I will say to that is the problem with that is people don't understand what's darkness and what's light. They are seeing the light as the lies, the illusion, the instant gratification, the spiritual bypassing, if you will,
Mm,
even medicine to a certain degree can be seen as like something that's light. In reality, all of those things are here to soothe and comfort us. They don't really help us get through what we need to get through to rise up to the next level. And so I feel like, if you're gonna do the work, you do the work. You can't just decide like I'm only gonna take the good parts of the work and I'm gonna focus only on that and that's what's gonna feed me, because you're gonna be stuck every single time. And because people have a misconception about what the darkness is versus what the light is, I think they get caught up in chasing that illusory light, like
mm,
fireflies, and
mm.
they burn out and they zap out. And I hate to see it, and it's my generation that it's happening to the worst. I'm 30, I'll be 31 this year. I feel like us Pluto and Scorpio babies, we got it. We got it tough. It's a lot. It's intense because we're being asked to be the change, and a lot
Mm.
of us, I don't think, are necessarily ready or even equipped to do it. But it's not
Well,
because
oh,
we don't have the resources, because nobody wants to do the work.
hmm. It's not because we don't have the resources. That's a very peculiar choice of words when it talks about self-healing and facing your own either mistakes or shortcomings or your own ignorance, right?
Mhm.
Being able to admit, okay, maybe I don't know and I need to look into it, and it's going to be work to look into it. But if I want to progress in this direction, it's a prerequisite, right? Just whatever the thing is that we are avoiding, And you say, and it's not because we don't have the resources. And I think that's very key. And I'm highlighting it because I agree. The big problem is that at by and large, we don't really know the distinction between the light and the darkness in this continued metaphor. But deep down, I think we do know, and I think we must know deep down. I think something in us knows the divine right and wrong, even if we don't know the human right and wrong at the time. And I think that manifests itself in some of these soothing versus actually healing things. I see a lot of language and trend to going towards things like, you know, when you feel negative feelings, go out into the field and go, you know, basically be happy in the sunlight. And it's not matched up with anything that addresses what's making you feel bad. So you're going to come back into
Yeah.
your room at the end of the day, and you're still going to shed tears onto your pillow. It's 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 not that it's not good to go out and get some sunlight, especially if in the moment it's a very heavy thing. Sure, go out into the sun, but you have to follow that up with the work, right? You have to do like, let's say you're a Christian, you have to do the reflection of the principles that you're supposed to be living by. Or let's say you're a Hindu, you have to do the breath work and the releasing of, you know, the spiritual energy that's been blocked or locked in various places. If you're a Buddhist, you have to do the reflection on the teachings. You have to do the things. You can't just go out into the sunlight, come back, finish your work, and then think it's going to be okay when you wake up. You know what I'm saying? And I know. I mean, have you seen? It's a lot of that out there. It's a lot of that out there.
Yeah, there is a lot of that out there. And I will say you're absolutely right. Nobody wants to actually do the thing. I've been talking a lot lately about repentance and admittance and um being honest with yourself, because I think a lot of it is just people not being honest and understanding that energy is never destroyed, it is only transferred, right? So if you feel bad and something within you is hurting or broken or whatever the thing is, just because you decide to go outside or meditate for 20 minutes or whatever you decide to do, doesn't mean that the pain is just going to go away. You have to face the pain, work through it to get through it. And if you are unwilling to do that, what's going to happen is it'll follow you. It'll follow you to a different person, a different situation, a different moment in time. And then you're feeling like, well, life has it out against me. And it's like, no, you have it out against yourself, because you're not doing the things that you need to do to face these inconsistencies with the reality that you want to live versus what you're actually living. And that is the work that I do. I'm here to bridge that gap between where you're at versus where you're trying to go. Because I think a lot of people, they have this one vision in their head of where they're trying to go, and it has nothing to do with who they really are or what they really need. It has everything to do with what's expected of them and what they think is going to work.
Mm. Mm. And then that will run you into purposelessness. That will run you into the cycle of running away from negative feelings, chasing positive feelings, and essentially doing nothing with your time but that. You know what I'm saying? Pretending to go to work when really you're just running away from negative feelings. And I literally mean like your job. Like if you work at the office, or you work at the pizza shop or the salon, whatever, you'll go to work, but you're just going through the motions physically of going to work. You're not really focused on any type of purpose. And I think purpose gives us meaning, right? Or it gives us a sense of life has meaning. Because even myself, before starting this podcast, I was losing steam with Ufulu Child very heavily. I was losing steam with the desire to, how to say, make Ufulu Child work with all of the factors that I won't go into today that were in the way of that. And I think that gave me the opportunity to think, well, what do I want to create that's all me? What I wasn't writing lyrics anymore. I wasn't, I was going through the motions with some of my meditation practice. And Shaunie, I'm not a fake meditation. I don't fake meditation, right? But I was starting to, and a lot, right? I was masturbating too much. It was a lot. It was a lot going on. And I said, okay, I have this yearning for creating something new, for creating something me. And this podcast came along, and suddenly, not only am I contributing something positive to the world, at least in my humble opinion, contributing something good to the world, but also I have purpose again. I have a reason to wake up and be grateful and be happy that I woke up again. I have reason to learn. I'm learning so much, so fast. It's pretty ridiculous. I have reason to be excited about the things we take for granted, like having conversation at dinner, or pillow talk with my wife, or these, like, the little, it's the little things,
Yeah.
the little things, and creating something not only of my own, because you can create something by way of finding a job that's more fulfilling to you, or a hobby, something that doesn't pay you, that you can put your name on, right? You can do your way on your terms within reason. And that'll give you a sense of meaning. What do you think about, like, meaning in life? What gives us meaning in life to you?
I think it's the most important thing that you can figure out. I think when you're moving through life with no passion, no meaning, you can't manifest, because your heart chakra is just imbalanced all the time. It's just shut down. And so for me, people will never believe this, but the person that I am now, I never really saw myself becoming or being, because I've always been very grounded, very practical. I have so much Capricorn energy in my chart. It's always been like, all right, I'm gonna go to school, I'm gonna get this job, I'm gonna work these hours, I'm gonna get this money, we're gonna get this house, and then, like, that's gonna be life. Like, that's what I thought. Like, but as I got, like, I would say, like, my late teen years, I don't know what happened, but something switched in me to where I started looking at life from a different lens. I can't really put a term on the lens, but I just started looking at life from a different perspective. I guess if I were to put words on it, I became more of the observer for a while. And in the
like
process
an incubation period.
Yeah, like an incubation period, exactly. And during that process, and I went through some trauma that triggered it, but during that process, I began to see how unhappy I was and how I was living. I wasn't really living. I was just existing. I was getting up every day and doing what I thought I should be doing, and it meant absolutely nothing to me. I was closed off to love. Like, I was being social and making friends, but I was just getting messed up and having, like, a good time being inebriated, like, not even building any real social camaraderie,
Right.
So to realize that, right, and to be in the place that I was, which was, I was kind of stripped of everything that I thought I knew. I had to rebuild everything around me. And I knew that I can't do it the same way that I did it before. I can't do it the way that I know that the people around me do it, because that doesn't work. So me not being, I'm not a person who always needs to learn from my own experience. Sometimes I do, but sometimes, like, I can sit back and look at something and I'm like, okay, I get it. And me being at that place, it was like, okay, I know that there is more to life. So how can I dive into what's passionate to me, or what I'm passionate about, and what makes sense to me and resonates with me? Because I've always been a person who was spiritual, but I wasn't necessarily digging into it. It was just something that I read about and practiced on my own time, but didn't really talk about or share, and even sometimes didn't apply in my own life, to be honest.
Well, I mean,
So
that's how it goes.
yeah, so like that's where I was at, you know, but I was young. I was 19,
Yeah.
18,
Yeah.
20. So going through that and being so young, I was still at a place where I was able to change the trajectory of my life through my spiritual awakening. And my spiritual awakening is what gave me purpose. So yeah, I was still going to work every day. Yeah, I was still doing certain things that didn't align with my purpose. But as you grow spiritually and things just don't feel right anymore, spirit will move those things out of the way. And then, you know, not to toot my own horn, but I've just always been pretty anointed and protected. So spirit will always set me into positions that I need to be in to get to the next level when I'm not recognizing it within myself. So when I decided to go to massage school, I was like, okay, this gives me a practical outlet for digging into my spiritual practice and applying this to my work. Like that's how I made sense of that in my mind, not realizing that I'm not even really focused on the physical aspects of y'all's healing.
Right.
Right. So once I
Metaphysical.
did that, I'm like, okay, this is gonna be cool. I'm gonna dive into this. It's gonna grow. It's gonna expand. It was cool. Like I love massage, but it just didn't give me everything that I needed. So then I started working at events doing chair massage. And then I started working at Body Rock, which I think I met you at Body Rock. Or no, we met at Neo Soul. Just ran
Yes.
into each other a couple times at Body Rock. But nonetheless, this lady came up to me one time while I was working at Body Rock, and she's like, can you do a reading for me? Mind you, I'm not actively doing readings online. I'm not advertising readings. I'm like, none of that is going on for nobody to even know to come up to me and ask me for a reading. So she asked me for a reading, and in my head, I'm like, no. I don't know, what you want me to tell you about your life? Like, what do you mean? How? What? So, but then something in my spirit was like, Shaunie, just do it. Like, just do it. So I did it, and she was crying. I was crying at the end of our session. And then I just started studying more and getting deeper into divination and all the things. And it just kind of grew from there. But that moment really gave me purpose, because before that, I felt like I was just aimlessly trying to figure it out and clinging to anything that resonated, when that's cool, but that doesn't, you have to, the spiritual journey is about practical application. If you can gain all the knowledge that you want, but if you're not applying the knowledge, then there will be no change. There will be no shift. There will be no reward, if you will, from all of that hard work that you're being asked to do. So of course you're not going to want to do it, because you're not going to see the benefit. But when you recognize, like, okay, when I listened to my intuition and surrender, good things happen. Okay, when I get out of my own way and stop resisting against the tide when things are saying slow down instead of me trying to keep going. You know, when you realize those little things and you put the pieces together, I don't know about everybody else, but I'm obedient.
Yeah.
So
well, and I want to comment on that kind of obedience a little bit too, because one thing about life is that there's no life without challenge, and challenge is, well, at least once you're wise enough to see, many of you all out there listening or watching this episode may not resonate with what I'm about to say, but I assure you it's still true. Challenge is never not a blessing, right? Challenge hurts like hell sometimes, right? Sometimes challenge is, I lost my mom. Like, how can that be a blessing? It's never not one. And here's the thing. Without challenge, you have no opportunity to be better than who you were yesterday. Without challenge, you have no opportunity to do it right this time. Without challenge and without cycles of challenge, you have nothing to reflect on at all. What it do, everybody? Hopefully you know what time it is. It is time for the expression of rhyme. That's right. It is time for the new segment of my podcast where I interject a rap verse into the episode that touches on one or more of the topics that me and my guests are engaged in at the time. And I try to make it, pretty cool. This rap verse here, I want to apologize in advance. It's full of double entendres and not so direct language. For some reason, that's just how the words came to me. But I think you should enjoy it. Make sure to comment below your favorite line from this segment of the podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe if you have not already had the chance. Go ahead and check this verse out. To retort what was said, a key course to the way out of the deep remorse and heal the hell in your mental recourse is to keep sourcing your heart. It ain't like you don't have the resource. Receive force from the source, redeem torque and see ports with mean forts, relieve shorts of food supply to communities who suffer badly by living up to the potential that you have. Be willing to do whatever it takes gladly and put truth first, remembering that you mad free. Look, the pain don't go away just because you meditate. You made your own plate. Now afraid of what you ate? Nah, you got to integrate that which you let in your state of mind and take your time discerning what should go to waste. Let that shit go. The rest will rest on your waist like a utility belt, digested separate space, holding your toolkit for every separate strength you make your moves with. Yes, your message awaits and trust. God's got direction for his children. Remember, challenge is never not a blessing when you listen. Obedience is where you get to step into your mission. It hurts, but what's the point of victory without resistance? You say you're a spiritual being, you're just having a physical experience. But to think that erases the physical, be delirious. I'm curious if you know just how serious your theory gets. Physicality is not oppression or limitation. It's an expression of beauty, intelligence, and patience. Every cell in the body is relevant and sacred, containing melanin within its essence in relation to the night sky. And you don't have to believe in astrology. Just know that everything's connected. And honestly, you'll have perspective empowered without apology, probably an anomaly making cowardice obsolete. And shout out to Shaunie for today's conversation. It inspired these lyrics I've thrown into rotation. So pass your favorite line around like it's a blunt and show them how we get down on the expression of love. And now, back to your regularly scheduled programming. And so challenge is never not a blessing, at least, to me.
No, I agree.
I think that's an absolute truth. But, to me, challenge is never not a blessing. And that doesn't mean that I have, that me having this understanding, Shaunie having this understanding, others having this understanding, does not mean we are not challenged and we don't cry and we don't have reason to shake our fist at the sky, if you will. But by the way, I started saying "if you will" a lot lately, and so I'm really happy that you use that phrase. So I'm not alone in that. Anyway, side note, but it doesn't mean that we don't have challenges of our own. It doesn't mean that we don't get confused, right? Even with all of this wisdom that we can say, and that we mean and that we attempt to live by. And it doesn't mean that we're perfect at all of our reactions, right? Shaunie will snap at you.
I will. I absolutely will. I think it's just about understanding balance. That's really all that it boils down to. And
I'm sorry. Obedience. I said all that to say, real quick, I'm sorry, Shaunie, but I said all that to say that what we feel when we feel challenged is a pull to not be obedient to the call. Either the most popular one is fear, right? I don't know what's going to happen if I listen to this call. But the more that you get challenged and the more that you feel an inner call to, like Shaunie said, either slow down, or sometimes it's speed up. It's go ahead and get it done. It's stop dilly-dallying and stop delaying and stop denying yourself the opportunity, whatever. Could be slow down, speed up. It could be do something new. It could be do something old that you stopped doing. Whatever the calling is, when you feel it and it comes with the fear, or it comes with the frustration, or it comes with the confusion, you have another opportunity to be obedient. So I wanted to add that in.
No, you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. I think that has been my saving grace, even from a child. I just have always had this thing in me that I know you need to listen to spirit, you need to surrender to spirit. That has just always been with me. But I know that not everybody starts with that. So I want to encourage you, be obedient when it comes to spirit, because God is not this man in the sky. Okay, God is nature, God is evolution, God is the thing that's making your heart beat and you wake up breathing every morning. Okay, so the fact that you have all of these blessings at your fingertips that cost nothing to you, and you literally woke up like that, that should inspire some type of obedience in you when spirit says move. And if it doesn't, then you need to do the work of figuring out why. What is the disconnect that you feel as though you are singled out from nature? Because you are not. You are just another integral part of the universe and connected to everything, which means that you have access to all the levels of infinite knowledge and abundance that everything and everyone else does, you know. But back to what I was saying about what you said, it's all about balance. That is the key. Everybody goes on a spiritual journey and they think everything bad in my life is going to disappear and everything's going to be amazing and wonderful. And it's just up, 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 up. That is not what happens at all. Most of the time, you're going to end up facing more challenges because you have more knowledge. And when you have more knowledge, you have more awareness. When you have more awareness, you begin to see things as they are, not how you want them to be. That creates conflict, it creates resistance, right? So when you learn the fact that, okay, I have to be just as much human as I have to be spirit. I have to be just as much in my intellect and experience as I am in my intuition. I have to be just as much masculine as I am feminine. When you realize that you need to maintain these levels of balance, it keeps you focused on the intention instead of all of the other little things that we compartmentalize along the way. So balance and obedience for me is really key in my own personal journey and in everything that I do and all the services that I offer as well.
Right. And yeah, thank you for that. And balance doesn't mean if you've done one extreme, you have to do the other extreme, right? Balance means right now, how can I center myself, my behavior, my thoughts, and if you're sensitive, my spirit? Like, how can I center myself? That's what balance is. It's not about the surface level idea of what fairness is. It's not that, because time is wasted when you try to calculate that way, right? It's just about, okay, yeah, yesterday I went really hard, and so I do need some rest, but it's not about, so I need to take 10 days off because I went really hard yesterday or something like that. Like, balance is not going from one extreme to the other and saying, but I balanced it. You know, it's like, no.
Center.
Yeah.
Too much of anything is not good for you. That is a virtue that we all need to learn to embrace. And
Right.
it's true. It doesn't even matter how great of a thing it is. Too much meditation is not good for you.
Right.
Too much water is not good for you. Too much nature might not be good for you, depending on how your skin reacts to this sun that we have now. You know, just too much of anything is not going to be good for you. So you just need to maintain a good sense of centeredness.
What are some things that we have too much of? Let's limit this question to, you know, like the people around us. So like America, like in our society, what are some things that we have way too much of that is making us blind to the facts, if you will?
Sugar, sex. And I won't even say person to person sex. I feel like it's sexual imagery.
Mm-hmm. The hypersexuality of pretty much everything. Okay.
Everything is sexualized. It's too much. And then the last thing I would say is probably social media, the internet. People have so much information available at their fingertips that they have gotten away from wanting to learn knowledge to just seeking information. And so nothing is being absorbed or applied.
Mm,
And so, yeah.
And social justice,
Mhm.
which, uh,
That's a whole other beast, man. Whole other beast.
I wonder, and I'm going to circle back to spirituality and God, but I wonder how you take some of these things that we see around social justice, like, how do I say? When you hear certain things about how much people are oppressed, in the, dare I say, freest society there has ever been on this little blue planet, ever. Right? Not that this nation has absolutely no really, really bad mistakes in its past, right? It does. And really, really crazy people and really, really horrible instances of oppression. But when people are on talk shows with their $300 suits, yelling about oppression and things that their own, right? Not championing someone else's. Sometimes they do, but when they used to yell about, oh, I'm so oppressed, and like, you're not. How do you take these things? Because I can be a little afraid to talk to my friends about these things, because I have very strong opinions about the oppression Olympics. I don't like them. I don't like the term microaggression. I don't like all of the anti-men rhetoric that's flying around.
Oh my God. So there's a whole lot that I feel about this. So first of all, I feel that people need to stop comparing suffering. That's just number one. Like, everybody has pain, everybody has privilege. We all have different levels of these things. And if we just learn to stop comparing and accept that it has happened to all of us innately, generationally, personally, whatever, we would all be in a better space. So there's that aspect of it. But the next part of that is just, I think a lot of people that are speaking about these things are oftentimes uneducated, and they are speaking from a very cynical position, especially when it comes to a lot of the anti-man rhetoric, and when it comes to every little thing being a microaggression. It's like, you guys are fetishizing trauma, and I don't like that, because there is real trauma and real triggers that are associated with certain aspects of these things that you guys are speaking about. But because you minimalize it so much because you just want something to talk about, it's like the real injustices are not being taken seriously.
Mm.
And that's the part that I don't like about it, because it's like, there's real oppression happening. There are really people losing their homes. There are really people who don't have access to real food. There are seriously people who, don't have a pot to piss in, even if they tried their hardest and damnedest to get one, simply because of the oppressive circumstances that they are in, based on the systems that we upheld because these systems benefit us, right? So if we're gonna have the conversation, let's really have the conversation about it for real. I was doing a reading for this guy the other day, and he lives in Africa. And at the end of his reading, now I don't know this guy, I've never spoken to him before, but at the end of his reading, he asked me, he's like, can I ask you a question that has nothing to do with the reading? I'm like, what's up? He's like, what is it like living in America? He's like, because, I just feel like it would be very easy and, breezy and beautiful and everything is great. And I'm like, it's a land of opportunity. It is a land of opportunity. We all have our own opportunity for free enterprise. And I said, if you want to work hard and stay focused and really drive in on your purpose, you can be very blessed. And I said, that is a thing. But I said, America has its problems just like every other country. It has its places where there are people who are oppressed and they don't have access to the basic necessities that they should have access to. And I said, it should not exist. with the level of money that America has. It just should not exist,
Right.
if you're gonna ask me about that. But it does not exist on one race level, nor does it exist on a male or female level. And that is what
I am
really
so happy.
gets me, like,
Right.
it just, oh.
What bothers me about it is the influence it has and will have on children, like these high school classes that are having students take privilege quizzes that literally divide them with their fellow students in the classroom based on how privileged they are, on a scale though. So those at the bottom should have more of a say on certain topics, should be able to raise their hand first, or get called on first or more often, like, because again, because of this fetishization of oppression, or why is it so attractive to be so down?
I don't know. I honestly, I don't get involved in that stuff because it's oppressive.
Ironically, right?
It's oppressive. I'm like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, it does not make logical sense to me. And because it doesn't make logical sense to me, I can't do it because I feel like I'm arguing with fools. And it's just like, how do you not understand? It's the children. You're absolutely right. It's the children. I think that's what gets me so frustrated, because the impact that this society is going to have on the kids is going to be ridiculous. And as we should be evolving, we're not. We're devolving. And it's driving me crazy. I'm like, why are you guys choosing a time in which we can actually make a difference and change things? Why are you choosing this time now to hyper analyze every little form of oppression that you think you see? Why? When there are so many other, like, there's just so much going on at an immediate level that we need to focus on, but yet everyone is so focused on the BS. And I don't understand.
They're focused on why they are oppressed and why they should have their voice lifted. And it's like you said,
that in and
it's
of
fools.
itself is oppression.
Right. And it's like you said, it's foolery, because I don't know how old this saying is, but there's a saying that I love. Those that know the least seem to know the loudest.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So thank you for answering that. I did not plan to speak anything political in today's episode, but oh my gosh, you have no idea how good it is to hear that there are still sane, grounded people. And now I'm really glad that I said you were grounded at the beginning too, because you are. You just
I'm pretty grounded.
You know, it's because it's hypnotizing. It makes your group identity more important than your behaviors, more important than your morals and ethics, more important than your values, your family history, your everything that's actually important is put below your gender, your sex, and your amount of money that you're making from your job that you really don't even do, because now you're quiet quitting and you're acting your wage and you're all of these things. Anyway, let's wrap that up in a bow, put a knot on it.
He said any of that.
What is God? You said God is nature. God is the reason why you wake up, why you're breathing every day, what beats your heart. What is that? What is doing all of those things?
I think it's infinite and divine energy. It is not to be defined. And I think that's the beauty of God. I don't like that people try to put God into a box. I don't think that God is male or female. I don't think that God is only good. I feel that God is the balance that we were speaking about earlier. God is what makes the grass grow when ain't nobody even out there to water them fields. Like, you know, God is what makes the earth rotate around the sun. I feel like it's just an energy that no one can explain, not even scientists. And yet it comes with so much power and so much divinity that you can't deny it, even though you can't
Mm,
explain.
mm. Yeah, with God, I feel I know, but I can't explain.
Mhm.
And why would I explain? What it wouldn't change anything knowing how to put God into words, or words into God, if you will, knowing how to do that wouldn't change pain or anything like that, right? It wouldn't change, let's say, what matters.
I think defining God doesn't change things, but understanding God changes things because it
Yes.
changes your perspective. And when you change your perspective, your reality changes.
Yes.
So
I
getting to
completely
know and
agree with that.
understand God, I think, changes things. But defining God really doesn't do anything for you. It just
Right.
lessens your understanding of God to begin with, because God is not to be defined. So
Mm.
yeah, that's
Now I'm gonna deepen this question a little bit and ask, if God is undefinable yet understandable, what is spirituality?
spirituality is the human journey to finding the God within themselves, or ourselves as humans, I would say. Um,
Them over there.
ourselves as humans. You know, I think spirituality is just us remembering the infinity of our beings and understanding that we are not only limited to this physical experience, however, we still here. So I think that's the piece that gets lost. Like, just because you understand that you are a spiritual being having a physical experience, that doesn't just take away the physical experience. You're still here to experience. So it's just, spirituality is just about learning how to, first of all, remember, because you need to remember some of the things that you've done, places you've been, and who you were. If you have an older soul, you need to remember so you can heal. So first, it's about remembering, and then I think once you remember, it's about transforming, because there are certain traumas and blockages and challenges that we come into this life with, like that you were born with, and you can't really do nothing about it. You have to just learn how to work through it, you know. So there's a piece of spirituality that you get, or there is a part of your spiritual journey rather, that takes you through that healing. And then I think after that, it's all about just evolution. So, you know, if God is understandable but it's not explainable, then the spiritual journey, it's understandable and explainable because it merges your human experience with your God presence, and that's just how that works, you know.
Beautiful. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. With with that said and understood, and I agree. So I'm not gonna say, yeah, what I think is this, because I pretty much would have probably said around the same thing
Mhm.
there. Because I mean, and you know me, I have something to say about everything, right? So I'll just agree with that one. Um, when when on the path, and by the path I mean like the path, right? When on the path and everything stops making sense, because I feel like that's a common thing amongst those who are really on what I'm calling the path, which I feel like if I say spiritual path, then it gets a little too muddy. So I'm just going to call it the path by itself. Hopefully my listeners and audience can keep up here. And I'm sorry for the broadness, but I feel like that's a common experience. Is there's there's a moment, there's a period of usually a few years, right? It's not a short, it's not a day or 5 minutes. There's a period of usually a few years, and it probably comes in cycles, where everything stops making sense. Your personality itself stops making sense to you. Your likes and dislikes stops making sense. Your life story up to your, that current point stops making sense. And you enter into the belly of the whale, if you will, and you don't know where you're going. You don't know how long it's going to take to get there. You don't know if you'll have any food delivered. You don't know if you're safe. All you do know is that every time you fall asleep, you keep waking up. And again, this is more so for people on the path. I know the same phenomenon can happen to people who are not inclined to go on the path, but it's definitely for people on the path. So anyway, just a side note. So anyway, when you are starting to untangle that high level confusion, or that that moment that things start to make sense to you again, where you're like, oh, okay, I had to get bored with my life so that I was inspired to create this thing, right? I'm using myself talking about the podcast. Or we had to have that fight so that we could dig beneath the surface and get to this issue that relates to both of our childhoods, talking about a potential relationship, right? Or whatever, and things start to finally click. What are the things that you think we should be like really aware of and really careful with when we're coming out of those moments that things just don't make sense? I would have asked you what should we do in those moments, but I don't think there is anything that you can do. I think that is pretty much all God and no you when you meet your confusion and nothing makes sense. But
So
coming out of it, what should we do? Yeah.
I always come back to the man that knows something knows that he knows nothing at all. Whenever I feel myself getting into that space, or whenever someone's talking to me about that space, it's the first thing that comes to my mind. And it's like, if nothing is making sense to you anymore and it once made sense, that means you're evolving. Every 7 years, you get a new set of cells and you're a completely different person. So in the interim of that, as your physical body is renewing, of course, your mind is going to renew, your likes and dislikes are going to renew, things are going to change, your triggers are going to change, the way that you react to things are going to change. That is just an essential part of life, whether you're on the path or not. But I think when you're on the path, you become more aware of it, and the hyper awareness puts you into this space where it's like, now I don't know what to do. And it's in those moments that you shouldn't be doing anything. You should be just listening and observing and figuring it out. Remember when I said earlier, when I was forced into a place where I had to be the observer? That's what that is. It's an incubation period where you're being reborn and everything is being stripped away from you. So you need to just surrender to the stripping, is really what it is. I think if you try so hard to cling on what you thought you know, or who you thought you were, and what you think resonates with you before you fully come through that incubation period, you're going to end up chasing an aimless pursuit that's going to put you right back into the void again. So I think coming out of that is, you need to be very intentional with what you're choosing to do and how you're choosing to do it. You need to decide, am I wanting to resume the same patterns that I was dealing with before? Or am I looking for a whole new experience? And from that assessment, then you decide how you take action. Because it's not always that you need to scrap everything and start anew. Sometimes it's just certain things that can't come with you, So
Yeah.
coming out of that, I think being intentional and aware is really the most important thing, because coming out of the void is a vulnerable space, and it can really make or break your journey or your path as a whole. Because sometimes the void is like going into the hole, like in jail, when you see people in a cell in black for 72 hours a day, you know, they're only eating one meal. Obviously, it's not that intense of a physical experience, but that's what it feels like spiritually. It just
It
feels
does.
dark.
Yep.
So
And
coming
lonely.
out of that, you need love, you need support, you need like real intentional direction.
Yep. It does. It does. It feels like solitary confinement with one meal a day. And sometimes it really is one meal a day because your sort of depressive side may snatch your appetite.
Mhm.
Even for
Mine
skinny dudes
does.
like me, it happens. I'm telling you.
Mine does. I am a stress starver. If y'all see me losing weight, I'm stressed out.
Well, not now because you're doing
Not
your
now,
your
because I'm
workouts and
intentionally
your
losing
yeah,
weight.
yeah, you're doing your yogas
but
and your workouts now.
but yeah,
Uh,
like just I think being very intentional is the most important thing you could do for yourself coming out of that space, because it really, it's sad to say this and I almost don't want to say it, but I'm gonna just say it. You can really get caught up in the wrong things if you don't have the proper guidance coming out of the void. And the reason why I say that is because you're looking for validation, you're looking for
mhm.
understanding, you're looking for something to make sense. So you can't just always run to the first thing that makes sense, because that's not always, sometimes that's exactly what spirit is trying to get you away from, and you will get yourself into some trouble doing that.
And clarity, right? Intentionality, and then um, prioritizing clarity over the right answer, right? Just being clear. Uh,
Clarity and temperance. Yeah.
Self-control, because because of everything that you just said, when you don't, then you'll either slip back into even more darkness, and just where you don't want to be, or you'll lash out.
Mhm.
And you don't want to do that. Why you want to go and do that, love? Huh? Hey, um, man, this has been a very fulfilling conversation, for sure, for sure. Where do I want to take it? I don't want to end it just yet. On your own journey, what were some mistakes that you made, and what didn't you see that led to those mistakes? Maybe pick two significant ones that you're willing to share online.
So the first mistake I made was being too curious, trying to consume too much information at one time, and not being able to actively connect the dots so that I can apply said information. That was the first mistake I made, because if I would have done that originally when I started my spiritual journey, it would have just been completely different. So it was just a learning experience for me. The second thing was not listening to my intuition. I told you earlier, I'm very obedient, and that is not by chance, that is by design,
By
because
learning, yeah,
I didn't have my ass beat a couple of times by
yeah,
spirit.
yeah,
So it's like, now I know you can't be out here doing what everybody else do. Like, you can't be out here just saying like, oh, I'll worry about it later. When you have the awareness, you gotta act, because if you don't, you are gonna be, I'm a Saturn ruled person. I have too many Capricorn placements. It just don't work for me. So not listening to my intuition, I think, was the second thing that I would do differently. If I could just go back and listen to my intuition every time I should have listened, things would just go a lot smoother. And what I will add to that is stopping and starting, because the work is continual. You're
yeah.
never done. You're never completely healed unless you're dead. And we're all
Right.
waking up every day. We're breathing. So it's not that you need to be putting pressure on yourself to constantly improve or evolve every day, but you need to make sure that you are actively inviting in awareness and intention every single day. And if you're not, every time you stop and you decide, oh, I'm just going to do whatever for a month, and then I'm going to go back into fasting and praying for 2 weeks. And then like, you can't do that. Everything is going to be out of alignment, and it's just not going to work. You have to be consistent. So I think a lack of consistency too was a thing that I would do differently. You can't start off. Every time you stop, you have to start over, because you're just regressing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes you can't I wouldn't say every time you have to start over, but definitely when you stop for a significant amount of time,
Yes,
because you're not going to retain the momentum. So
exactly.
if momentum was a large reason, pardon me for looking to the side, if momentum was a big reason why you got to where you got to, right, got to as far as you got, then you're not going to be able to pick up momentum where you left off.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll probably have to get a running start.
Yep, and timing changes.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mentioned earlier, as above, so below. Sometimes the energy that you have to work with now is not going to be the same energy that you have to work with later, and that's going to create a whole different experience.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing that goes into that. But you're absolutely right about stopping for a significant amount of time. Obviously, you give yourself a break sometimes.
Right,
You don't
right.
need
Yeah,
to
you
be
know, you
constantly,
take a little
but
2 day spiritual holiday and don't do nothing spiritual, don't think no spiritual thoughts for 2 days, but don't forget yourself and never
yeah,
discount God or whatever you call the spiritual essence of where we all are sourced.
mhm,
Absolutely. Give yourself a break. We call them divinity breaks. Give yourself a divinity.
mhm.
Well, okay, not a break from spirituality. We call all types of breaks divinity breaks. Right?
Sometimes that's what you need.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if you don't take it, I think this is significant. Yeah. If you don't take a moment away from what you think you know, then you'll think you know it all. You'll create an image of what spirituality is supposed to mean in your life. And whenever you create an image, you put God in a box, as you said earlier, right? Or put yourself in a box, right? Your own human experience, you'll put that in a box. And if God's not in a box and you're made in the image, then you're not in a box, or at least you don't
Yes,
belong in one.
yes,
Now,
yes, indeed.
that makes me think of the concepts of good and evil, because my beliefs around good and evil are changing. I believe in them. I think some people are, well, first of all, overarching umbrella fact, I believe that we are all playing different parts in on God's stage, right? I think that it's all a reflection of the source of all things. So at the highest level, no, I don't think there's such thing as good and evil. That's the overarching. But within the human story, I think some people are here to play evil roles and to exemplify to the rest of humanity what not to do. And I also think that most of us here in the human story, at least in recent history and now, are here to play a somewhat silent role, meaning a turn the other way and look away from the light, right? Look away from the evil that's being done, or the very obviously potentially dangerous for children, and look away from it and say, well, that's not my business. And that goodness stands out. I grew up believing that people were inherently good, and my spiritual beliefs when I came into adulthood, really up until about maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, I thought that people are basically good. Now I don't believe so. I think people are basically cowardly, and that good and evil stand out from the crowd equally, and that a lot more evil stands out than good. But when good stands out, they stand out stronger. That's what I believe. And then I reflect on the stories that I love that are fictional, Naruto and Hunter x Hunter, and these animes, as well as movies that I like to watch. And you see, good is rare, but it's strong. Evil is kind of rare, but they have more numbers. and silent and cowardly is the middle. And I think that's a reflection of human beings. What do you think about that? That might be a lot.
Um,
Sorry for the loaded question, but
no, it's
I
okay.
thought about it a lot. Yeah.
I'm just trying to process. So I would agree mostly with what you said. I do think that um, majority of humanity kind of tries to take this neutral view. But in saying that, I don't think that they're necessarily neutral or cowardly because they feed into the good or the evil whenever they see fit.
Hmm.
So it's more of, I think people need to stop battling the concepts of good and evil in their heads, and then we would be able to actively evolve the concepts of good and evil as a whole
So
to
be
the way
good.
that they should be.
Mhm. So like
Because
be
when,
good with your behavior instead. Is that what you're implying?
not even that. I mean, I'm a firm believer in balance. So if you don't want to be good, then don't be good. Like do what you want to do. Like I'm not gonna tell you not to do that. I'm not gonna agree with you. I'm not gonna support you or any of the things, but I'm not going to infiltrate on what you should decide that you want to do in terms of
Mhm.
your moral compass, right? It's not my job to hold you accountable. It's your own job to hold yourself accountable for what you deem good or
Hmm.
evil in your own life.
Okay.
However, I think in today's society, especially in America, we don't even know what good and evil is anymore. A lot of the things that people think are good are inherently evil.
I
And a
agree.
lot of the things that people think are evil are actually inherently good.
I agree.
And so, because we've come back to this disconnect of what's light and what's darkness, right? There can be no real um, evolution until there's a reconciliation of that understanding,
Mm.
because understanding comes first. You know, I practice
Right.
numerology a lot, specifically Kabbalistic numerology, which just takes you through 1 through 10. The number 3 is Binah, it's understanding. You can't get to 5, which is the struggle. You can't get to 6, the victory, 7, the completion, the assessment, without first gaining the understanding. So for me, it's like I grew up believing that people were inherently good because of the type of person that my mom is. But people weren't inherently good to her. So her being such an open-hearted, giving, generous, kind person and seeing people take advantage of her, it made me like, people ain't shit. Like most people really ain't shit. And that's just how I look at the world, honestly. And then when I got more into my psychic gifts and I started reading energy and auras, it was like, oh,
Right.
y'all really need to get it together. Like this is a lot. You know, like I'm over here thinking like you're cool, we're great, and now I'm seeing things on you that are just like, whoa, not good. You know, so I think good and evil is more of man man-made terms that we just need to learn how to bring balance to. And if
Okay.
there was more balance, then we would have a better society as humans. But because there is a lack of balance, more evil penetrates through our societies as a whole.
I respect that. I mostly agree. There's 2 points where I kind of don't. I just want to bounce. I don't want to. I'm not going to argue with you. Um, but I just
And
want to bounce.
I
There's
trust that we will have a natural debate.
yeah, yeah. Because I can't help it. One thing is that you said near the beginning, a lot of people don't really know the difference, and so if you're someone out there is that's doing evil, is chances are, let's say 7.5, 8 times out of 10, you don't even know that what you're doing is harmful to yourself or to others. So it's not necessarily my job to check you on it or to do anything about it at all. Or within reason, right? I mean, obviously, if it's infringing on your space, I would guess that you would do something in those instances. But in general, it's not
Right.
your job. It's kind of
Right.
right. Where I kind of disagree with that is you don't have to do that with a high level of judging the individual. I think you can point out, we can point out the root of the evil, for lack of a better way of putting it, the root of something, without becoming hyper judgmental of nitpicking their actions or nitpicking the way that they think, and just deal with the root. And so I think that if you do know the difference, if you're, let's say, sensitive enough like yourself or knowledgeable enough like myself to really have a pretty good grasp on what the difference is, then I think that's a gift, and I think you should use your God-given gifts. That's just my opinion. And so there might be an argument for some personal responsibility in dealing with evil. And the second thing I kind of disagree with is that it's, well, and you didn't say it like this, but you kind of implied it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that it's completely man-made. I don't
I
think
didn't say it was completely man-made. I just
Okay.
said there are man-made additives that come with good and evil that create confusion surrounding what is good and what is evil. And I'm
Mhm.
also not saying that you shouldn't call evil things out when you
Mhm.
see them. I'm just saying that the way that we hyper analyze things that are bad is not conducive to balance and duality, which is the society that we live in.
Okay.
Because everything is not meant to be good, and that's just
Right.
reality.
It wouldn't be, why would we be here
Exactly.
if it was all creation and no destruction? Absolutely. I agree with that. So then, okay, so I don't disagree with you, but I'll say for those out there that may think, well, good and evil, that's just a man-made, these just man-made concepts or man-made adjectives that we use to justify our own satisfaction in judging people, and because that is a very popular thing to say or to think, right?
Mhm.
Is that one that automatically separates man from the supernatural? And I don't know if that's, you can't separate a thing from its source. So if what comes out of man very naturally, right, all of the holy books, all of the spiritual teachings, they all are on morality and ethics, all of them, without exception,
Mhm.
right? And the Bible or the Buddhist teachings or the yogic teachings, even some of the mythologies and the polytheistic thoughts, all of them, they have been divine at least a high percentage, versus like Naruto, for instance, right? Like, yeah, somebody may think that's divine, but it's not on the same level as these spiritual teachings. Like, they speak directly to the heart of people. And when you can understand them, then you really, people that really, really understand the Bible, they do amazing things. There's some really amazing people. And all of the other books. And so good and evil really doesn't come from man, it comes from God. It's just, man may not fully understand it before he's trying to play God and make judgments based on it. And I think that the study of goodness is called wisdom. I actually got that from listening to Dennis Prager from Prager University. He's the co-founder of it, and he said in order to really know goodness and to build, to contribute to building a society of good people, you have to study what good is, and the study of goodness is wisdom. Learning, you have to take the time to learn what is wise and what is not. And during taking that time, you have to make mistakes and get experiential knowledge of what is wise and what is not. And so I think, yeah, there's nobody that should be going around and saying, by my judgment alone, this is evil and this is how society should treat you or somebody else because of it. But I do think that on your journey, when you are clear on some, you know what? Yeah, that looks good on the surface, but I know in my heart this is not a good idea or this is not a good thing to do. Then
But
yeah, we should attack the root of that evil.
I agree with you, but I still feel like a lot of what you said doesn't have anything to do with good and evil. It has to do with recognizing the God within you, which is a part of your spiritual journey. I just made a post that I posted last year and reposted where I said at the end of the post, the spiritual journey is about knowledge applied. Knowledge applied is wisdom. So if you inherently know certain things and you do those things, then you're moving with wisdom. But when we talk about God consciousness, right? Because
Yeah,
that's a thing. When we
yeah,
talk about God consciousness, if we're going to say that good and evil comes from God, God has done good things and God has done evil things in every
right,
text that you're going to read.
right.
So I will say again, it is by our own judgment as humans that we choose to define what is good and what is evil. Everything has its place in terms of balance, right? But at the end of the day, when you have access to God consciousness, when you know inherently what you should do to be a good human, which has nothing to do with God, then you should do better because your fellow humans are impacted by your behaviors and your thought processes and what you choose to put out into the world. You're part of a greater collective, right? So
Absolutely.
knowing that, you should be doing certain things and not doing other things that some
Right.
people would deem evil. But when we talk about the God level of that, it
Yeah.
doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then that argument that you just said, it just doesn't make sense because it's like, at what point do we say, I'm taking my hand out of the judgment and I'm becoming the best version of myself and doing what I know I should do to be the best human that I can be?
Mm-hmm.
Because then everybody's working towards the greater good versus working against forces that have been here, will be here, and are going to be here.
Well, I think the distinction is that one working on themselves with that attitude often leads to too much isolation.
So why would you become isolated when you know that you're a greater part of a whole?
They don't. They don't at the beginning stages, at least. I'll put it like that. There's different, right? So that's what I mean, is taking into account the plethora of places that we can be, right? And sometimes you reach a high stage, but then life comes at you in such a way that you start a new cycle and you don't know the things that you knew at this other high stage anymore because things don't make sense to you anymore. You're back in your incubation, in your rewiring, in your letting go stage. And so it's not even an age thing, right? It's not even a, by 35, you should have this much wisdom. Like, it's not even
No, it's never
like that.
about age. It's
Yeah,
just about knowing.
yeah,
Like, you know that you shouldn't be doing certain things to children, right? Like, you inherently know that. Everybody knows that's, it's a thing that goes without saying, right? But it still happens. It
right.
still happens, and it happened in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, these are sins of man.
Yeah,
These are not,
yeah,
these are things that have to do with humans trying to elevate their experience through exploration.
mm-hmm.
It didn't start out with, I'm doing this thing because I know it's jacked up. You know what I mean? And the fact that we know now that certain things are jacked up, it doesn't take away from the fact that everything in essence has its place within your journey, and you are the only person who can decide what is inherently good or evil for you, because your heart's going to be weighed by God, not me, not soul, right? So it's like, I can tell you all day, hey, you shouldn't be spewing out that type of energy. It's very negative. This and this and this is going to happen. And you're creating this type of negative cycle and blah, 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 this and blah, 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 that. But if you're not ready to hold yourself accountable for the actions or intentions or thoughts or whatever that I deem evil, and you're not ready to change that, my perception of what you're doing doesn't have any interference on your life. Just the same way that God's.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I don't mean that. I don't. Okay, then I think we're going to agree when I say this then, because I don't mean. I don't mean it. It's hard to talk about it without sounding like I mean checking people right there in the moment, but I don't. I really, really don't, because yeah, that will often be a waste of time and a waste of energy. Although sometimes it would help, and I think, like I said, I think you would do that in those times that you would know. Oh no, I need to say something right now. Like it's different. So no, I don't mean checking people in the moment. Hold on. What I mean is, really quick, is recognize, okay, seeing person A or group A that's engaging in this, and let's say even engaging in it and believing that they are doing good. When it's clear that they're not, but they believe that it's clear that they are. And let's just assume, for my example, you are the correct one, the one that's saying, no, this is not right. That in God's eyes, whatever, you're right, they're wrong. This group of people that's doing this thing. It's not to go up to the group of people in the moment and say, don't do that, and here's why. It's to teach the children, this is an example of what not to do, and here's why, and to normalize within it as much of the community that you can practically reach without overstretching yourself. This is what we're going to teach the children, because these are the results from what this group over here is doing. And then when this group eventually makes it to your doorstep, fighting like hell. That's what I mean. You know what I'm saying?
No, I agree with that. I agree with that 100%, because you can't allow certain things to infiltrate righteous spaces.
Yeah.
And I think
so I'm
sorry. You said a lot right there when you said you're not going to go up to them in that moment and tell them, hey, this is wrong and this is the right way to do it. Because it's not about right and wrong. It's about righteousness. So you're going to teach the kids to move in righteousness, and you're going to keep out the energy that tries to disrupt the righteous flow. And I 100% agree with that. I think you should protect the righteous flow of energy in all spaces, in all things. And because we haven't done that, that's why we're where we're at now. And
on the side, it's about normalizing the righteousness in as much of the community that you can reach. And that's it. So yeah, I think we found common ground on that. We found common ground on that. And why, how that relates to what I said about most people are silent and cowardly is they do the same thing when they have children or they're around children. Is if they see the thing, they're not willing to look at the child and say, look, that over there is not something you want to do. So that's what I mean by silent and cowardly. Not that they don't walk up to the person with the gun and say, hey, stop. You're gonna get yourself shot, and some people you're not going to change their mind. You don't have the power.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Some people you're not going to. And again, I think some people, let's say Hitler, were put here to play an evil role, to literally play out a certain story in a certain way as an example of what evil really looks like. At a high level. And all of his crazy doctors that were doing all these experiments on the Jewish people, all of that. But teaching the children about, here's how people like that become people like that. That's important. And turning away or acting like that it's not really a big deal is, I think, cowardly. Not necessarily evil on the same spectrum, but cowardly. That's what I think.
I agree 100% with that. I definitely feel that.
I got one more question for you, Shaunie. And I'm really happy that you came on the show. This is a super fulfilling conversation. We even got to debate a little bit. Like, come on with it. That was awesome. It would not be the Expression of Love podcast if I did not ask you, what is love to you at this current stage of your life? What is love in your eyes? Feel free to take your time with this question. It is supposed to be loaded.
You know, I have a hard time with this question because to me, God is love. And I can't explain God, so it's hard for me to explain love. So I will say that love is surrender, love is acceptance, love is knowledge and understanding. You know, love is intimacy and depth and vulnerability. Love is transformative. It's healing. I think love is an antidote to a lot of the current issues that we face in today's society. Um, just as learning the God within you is embracing the energy of love. I think love um, is the energy that counters all that is inherently negative while still giving you the exposure that you need to the negative aspect of things so that you can grow through the challenges that you face. And I find that very beautiful. I don't think that there is another emotion or energy that I can think of that it kind of is a double-edged sword in that it comes with its blessings and it also comes with its pain, but at the same time, it just holds you through everything. I think it's a lost art, to be honest. I do. I think that love is a lost art, and it God is really love. Love is God. I think they're one and the same. Only love is a verb and God is a noun.
Right.
That's it.
Beautiful. Man, before you go, I would love it if you could plug away at anything you'd like to share with the people. And of course, the links will be in the description of this video. What you got going on, Shaunie? And where can people reach you as well?
So you guys can reach me at 11 Moons 11 on everything that is the word 11, moons plural with an S and then the number 11. It's at 11 Moons 11 on Instagram, at 11 Moons 11 on TikTok, 11 Moons Therapy on Facebook, and 11moons11.com is my website. You can also reach me there. I am a spiritual counselor, energy healer, and teacher. Okay. So I just recently dropped a new tarot class. If you're interested in learning the Fool's Journey and how you can apply these concepts in your own life, transform through just getting to know the Fool's Journey and the symbolism behind tarot, definitely can take up that class. My website is the place to go to do that. If you need one-on-one guidance or one-on-one coaching, you can also book me from Instagram directly, from Facebook directly, or from my website directly. All of the links are there. All the links, though, will take you to my website. So really, you can save yourself some time and just go to 11moons11.com. Everything is listed there. I'm also doing a free challenge right now. This is the last week of the challenge. So you've got a few days to get started. Sign up on my website, but start on YouTube. So you can just go right to my YouTube channel, 11 Moons 11. Subscribe. You'll get notifications every morning when I go live with yoga, workout, meditation, and message of the day. We're going to finish out this week for our 21 days, and then I'll be moving the challenge over to my website, but it will still be free for the first couple of weeks for those who've already started the challenge and just weren't able to finish. So if you have the time to go ahead and register on my website for the free, get in. That way you'll still have access to those videos. If you've been wanting to get into a routine of mindfulness in the mornings or in the evenings or just any time of day, really, it's just a quick 30, 45-minute max video that you can watch every day. That'll give you a quick workout. It'll give you yoga. It'll give you some meditation and just kind of start your day off on a good note. So I would recommend that you guys do that as well.
Hey, you know what? You know what, Shaunie?
What?
Give me 3 cards.
3 cards?
What
Okay.
spirit got for me?
Let me grab a deck. I was
Someone asked me, the last person asked me for my mother's maiden name before. I was like,
Really?
yeah,
That's interesting.
heavy into Yoruba Ifa, and divine at it, right? Not no fake. You know, I don't mess with the false people.
But yeah, you are a good read of energy, I'm sure.
But yeah, let's get 3 cards. Her name is Velez, by the way.
What's her name?
Velez,
Liz.
Velez.
So you got the Union, you got the Page of Swords, and then you got the Chariot. So this is telling me, first of all, that lately you've been feeling a lot of love and support, togetherness. We've been really on this wavelength of together we can build a stronger foundation and things can really work a lot better for us. And if I just continue moving from this place of unity and togetherness, specifically when it comes to working with your wife, I think, and listening to her guidance and providing guidance for her and allowing both of your intuitions to kind of merge together and work as one. I think the two of you have been able to create like a new perspective. And from that new perspective, there has been a strong level of forward movement, not only from the heart, at a relationship level for the two of you, but also on a financial level for the both of you, also on a spiritual level for the both of you. It feels like there was a car that just pulled up and was like, hey, get in, we going to the place. And y'all was like, all right, we jumping in, we going to the place. And y'all got to the place and y'all were like, dang, we've been praying to be here. We didn't think it was gonna come this soon, but now it's here. And so I'm excited to see that for you. I feel like that is gonna come with a lot of transition and transformation that is going to be positive. It won't feel as challenging as some of the transition and transformation felt for you in the past. And I also feel like you've kind of reactivated your magician. And what do I mean by that? It feels to me like you got your mojo back. Like there was a point when you didn't feel like you had the tools, you didn't feel like you had the resources, you felt like there was just something missing. And now you're like, I got it. I'm just waiting on everybody else to realize that I got it. And I think that's beautiful. I think everybody else will see it sooner than later. And I feel like the next 6 months for you is going to be absolutely amazing in business and in love specifically. So yeah, that's what I got for you. I was in my readings now with these postcards from Spirit. I know you only asked for 3, but I have to pull one for you because you just made me pull 3 for you. So
thank you. Yeah, of course.
Let's see what it's gonna give us. I love this deck, by the way, for anyone who's maybe watching this and you are not necessarily a reader, but you just want like some oracles to give you some profound messages every once in a while. I would recommend that you get this deck. Oh, right on point with what I just said. So it says, dearest you have a unique purpose and destiny that only you can fulfill. But first you need to know that destiny isn't a destination. You don't arrive at some special place where poof, you're perfect and happy all the time. It's about establishing and firming up a commitment to a certain experience, whatever form that takes. Your soul knows what you need to experience. Your destiny is to be present to all of life's adventures, to discover your talents and full potential through allowing inspiration to lead you, and to risk standing apart from the crowd to listen to your soul. You are special as much as you are also paradoxically one with the world, individual yet part of a great whole. Both truths have led you to this moment where we are saying you are on the right track, even if your ego self doesn't see that yet. Listen to your soul, check in with your spirit, and keep going. Spirit loves you, life loves you, and we love you. Ashe, ashe to that.
Ashe, oh, go me. No, that's what's up. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Expressions of love.